Another day, another broken promise from Sir Keir Starmer. The promise? Under Labour, your energy bills won't go up. 2 years ago, he said this.
We'll keep those prices down. We will not allow these rises to happen.
He even promised Labour has a fully costed plan to freeze your bills.
That's why the Labour Party has a fully costed plan to freeze energy bills this winter. And we'll pay for that with a windfall tax on those unexpected profits. I understand, I completely understand, why so many people are frustrated at the government that's not doing anything about their energy bills.
Labour even tweeted this. Labour would act now to stop energy bills rising, saving you £1,000 this winter. In May this year, he went on Good Morning Britain and said Labour would save you £400 on your bills. In June this year, he said again that Labour would cut bills, create jobs and provide energy security. In Parliament, he hammered the Tories for even thinking about cutting the winter fuel payments for pensioners.
Last year, the Prime Minister was apparently drawing up plans to remove the winter fuel allowance from pensioners. So will he now rule out taking pensioners' winter fuel payments off them to help fund his £46 billion black hole?
Then people voted for him, he won the election, and this happens. He cuts winter fuel payments for the elderly. They now face, many of them, a choice between heating and eating. And then today, this happens. The average annual energy bill will rise by 10% to £1,717 in Great Britain from October. Ed Miliband, the Energy Secretary, is obviously blaming it all on the Tories, saying it's all about their toxic legacy. But, I mean, I thought that Labour had a fully costed plan. Didn't you? No? OK. This is the same Ed Miliband who has just flown some 6,000 miles, by the way, to Brazil to talk about climate change. Hasn't he heard of a Zoom call? Labour voters are waking up to the reality of Sir Keir Starmer and co, saying one thing before the election and doing something completely different now they're in power.
I'm a staunch Labour voter, and I was ashamed to see a Labour government hit the poorest people the most.
Get your wallets out, because Keir Starmer's about. Let's get the thoughts of my panel now. I am joined by former BBC and ITV political chief is John Sargent. We've got entrepreneur and businesswoman Joanna Jarju and political commentator Alex Armstrong. John, it's proving trickier for Keir Starmer in government than it was in opposition, isn't it?
Well, that's it. We all knew it was going to be, and they knew it was going to be. But could he have gone into the election saying, I'm going to put up taxes, your heating's going to go up by 10%? No, they couldn't, in fact. This is a bit of politics, and we'll all suffer from it. But the key thing to bear in mind is that the legacy was passed on from the Conservatives. You can argue about it, you can argue about whose fault it was, but don't say it was all rosy. Everyone knew this was going to be very, very difficult because we haven't got much money in the public purse. It's as simple as that. OK,
but, you know, cutting the winter fuel payments for the elderly, a lot of old people now choosing between heating and eating, when Keir Starmer absolutely hammered the Tories for that a little while ago. You know, that, to me, seems outrageous.
Well, it is outrageous, and it obviously isn't, you know, the most ideal thing that people want. But realistically, I actually think that it's more even-handed of Labour. At the end of the day, you know, they resisted reversing the two-child benefit cap. We can't just always have this kind of ring around pensioners as if they're kind of more special than other parts of society. It's really unfortunate that we are in this 20 billion black hole. The economy is obviously on its knees, so we have to be able to kind of pull from different bits.
£3.1 billion was borrowed by this government last month alone to pay for public services, and unfortunately the choice there was let pensioners freeze this winter to pay our union mates.
No, but I don't even think it's that, because you've got to look at it kind of holistically, in the sense that if these strikes do continue, then the amount that the economy actually loses, and we depend on productivity as well for growth. So we need these strikers to get back to work. So when you actually tally it up, it's better for them to settle with the train.
And these were independent pay review bodies. So it's very easy to say, oh, they gave the money.
But
no, the money had to be paid because the public sector workers knew they had a very strong case.
But I don't want to get bogged down in the strikes thing, so I'm going to talk about that later. But seriously, though, they could have attached some conditions to that money, and they chose not to.
Yes, they could have done in some cases.
People's bills are going to go up by about 10% now. And, you know, a lot of people could have seen that coming. But Keir Starmer, and I could have chosen more examples in that monologue there, has repeatedly, time and time again, said, under Labour, this won't happen. Well, here we are.
Well, your bills would go down, famously, right? Your energy bills will go down. That's what he said. And this is also a problem because Ed Miliband is selling this GB energy thing to the public over the last election campaign, which he... Well, you would say that, Joan, wouldn't you? And he said that's going to be our saviour. You're going to have cheap bills. Your bills will go down by 100 and something quid. Well, obviously, we know in the short term, and we all said that the net zero madness that this government is going to impose on us is going to push bills up. Not only that, they also stopped drilling new oil. They've got rid of all of that policy, so cheap fuel is no longer available. And so rather than this being a sensible transition, if we're going to do it, let's be sensible about it, we're now going to punish the most impoverished in our society in order to have this grand plan for GB energy, which is obviously now punishing pensioners first. So let your nan freeze. That's what Keir Starmer wants to do.
But you can't go on subsidising people's heating bills. You can't do it endlessly. There comes a point when you've got to balance your income.
Yes, I agree, John. I agree. But the problem is what we have. But this is meant to be the Be Kind Labour Party, and the problem is that they're going to let pensioners. There will be pensioners that die this winter as a result of this policy. Are we saying that is acceptable?
No, but
it never should be acceptable.
But don't pretend as if all pensioners are going to freeze this winter. Yes, you know there are some people that unfortunately will miss out, but they do also have the pension credit scheme as well, which is going to be able to be of benefit to around 800,000 pensioners. So they're taking away, to some extent, from one side, but they are also helping people who are at the lower end as well.
Fine, but where's the fully costed plan, John?
Oh, no.
Where is it?
It was never there, to be honest.
So, but this is... this is a government of service.
No, I'm not...
This is credibility, you know?
No, hold on, Pat. I'm not defending the government in this. Their whole aim was to win the election. That's what they did by promising as little as they could, by obfuscating about all sorts of problems which they knew were coming up. I accept that. The overall point is we all know that our country is in deep trouble. That's why the Conservatives were nearly wiped out at the general election. So what you can't do is to say, oh, well, this is all now their fault in 6 weeks.
At the end of the day,
this was the position we were all in. We knew this.
You can tell that this isn't solely a political decision, because when we've looked at past governments, they have protected pensioners. You know, they've had the
rightfully so. Rightfully so.
It made sense for the Conservative Party to do that.
No, but it makes sense to look after people who put tax into this country for their entire lives to be protected by this country.
What I'm saying is that it also wasn't just a sole political decision, which it has been before.
Okay.
So if you're going to do things like not reverse the two-child benefit cap, and you know that the government, the country is in the state that it is, then you should also, means test other parts as well.
Well, we haven't means tested the gold-plated pension scheme that we're giving to the civil service, which is going to cost this country billions. Why don't we scrap that? But we won't, because they're Keir Starmer's mates. We say it's not political, but Keir Starmer's looking after his club of the civil service at the top there, who are going to get these massive, massive payouts, when we could be giving that to people who might actually die this winter. I don't know what happened to the Labour Party overnight. They've seemed to...
in the country have private pensions, and then they get this money.
But that's their hard-earned cash, Joanna. That's their hard-earned private cash.
When we look at what I do disagree with, actually, is the fact that I think it was 11.4 million pensioners that were getting it, and then now 10 million are losing it. Maybe that's too far, but in terms of, you know, the thresholds, I do think that they should, because it's like, why am I going to be sunning myself on a yacht if I'm a pensioner and then receiving extra benefit? It makes no sense.
It does not make sense to give everybody this money. It's easy to do because you then don't have to do any testing and all the rest of it. But if you look at it, again, sensibly from a distance, would it be a good idea to give just everyone some money?
There are means-tested people in this country. Carol Vorderman did a famous interview with somebody on the phone, a disabled pensioner who is going to be taken off. Her and her husband couldn't walk, couldn't get out of bed. bed, she is going to be one of those people who doesn't get that fuel payment
Sure,
anymore.
yeah.
And so this is what I mean. The means testing isn't even good enough.
No, but that's an argument for improving the means testing system.
Yes, fine.
Not an argument.
But it's not ready.
Let's give
But it's
everyone
not ready.
No, but can I just say,
Let's give everyone this.
For me, I understand this. There are arguments for and against the whole pensioners' winter fuel payments thing. I get all of that. But for me, this cuts right to the core of Keir Starmer's government. And it cuts to the core of lies and hypocrisy. And that is a problem for a person who's billed himself as Mr. Integrity. And when you see him stood in Parliament there hammering the Tories for even thinking about doing this, which actually some people are now saying, look, there was a case
No,
for
it's
doing
fiendishly
it, right?
difficult.
Yeah, and
Patrick, we can agree to that.
Yeah.
It is very difficult for Keir
But how can we
Starmer in this
trust the word he
position.
says?
Nobody's saying it's easy.
But it's not difficult.
Point said it was going to be easy.
All of this about Keir Starmer lied and stuff, it's literally been 2 minutes since he's been in government, right? If he said, no, but if he says that, you know, your energy bills are going to come down, he didn't say your energy bills are going to come down within the first month. These increases that we're seeing are because of global factors as well. And if Ofgem have then made this decision, you can't just say then, oh, it's Keir Starmer.
But we are also cutting off cheap fuel in order that would help us to pay for these things. That's a political decision.
That can be a criticism in terms of, you know, whether we should be renewing North Sea
oil licenses. Licenses.
But the rest of it, you can't say that it's his fault.
OK, all right. Well, look, a lively start. You love to see it. Happy Friday, winners. So, still to come is the